Okay, welcome to the Christian Bitcoin podcast. I've got Jim Crider as our guest today. He is a family man, Christian Bitcoiner, and a certified financial planner. He started Intentional Living Financial Planning. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, it's Jim and Jim today. Okay, so tell us a little bit about intentional living and maybe tell us a little bit how it's different than a normal financial planner.
Yes, I started this firm about 5 years back. I did this as a response to experience working in the industry. So prior to this, I worked at a multi-trillion-dollar firm and then was also a lead advisor at a small boutique financial planning firm, and was dissatisfied with a handful of things. One, I recognized pretty quickly that I was not able to talk about a lot of things that are very impactful to people's financial lives, especially at large firms. So couldn't bring up taxes at all, which is wild to consider. You can't talk about tax planning when you're talking about financial planning. Estate planning, really much at all within like deep financial planning. And then also wasn't able to roll up our sleeves and spend the time with our clients engaging in what's happening in their life in real time in the capacity I wanted to. So most financial planners will meet with their clients once a year, once every 2 years, maybe twice a year, some cadence between there. And that's fine as long as you're just checking in on routine check-ins. Maybe you're already retired and you just need to make sure you're maintaining things, but that's not adequate in real life financial planning in my experience. So if you're looking, hey, Jim, there's a duplex that just came up for sale down the road that looks very appealing. Should we buy that? It'd be odd for me to say, hey, it's our annual check-ins in 8 months. I hope that duplex is still available then. So I wanted to have more regular engagement for our clients, so we could actually help them navigate the financial decisions they're making on an ongoing basis. And outside of that, obviously there's the Bitcoin side of things. So I went deep down the Bitcoin rabbit hole in early 2020 and essentially moved all of my family's money to Bitcoin and brought Bitcoin up regularly I was part of the investment committee at another financial planning firm at that point, brought Bitcoin up regularly during those conversations and was regularly shot down. And then lastly is just the, I don't know, how we view planning. I guess it sounds sort of weird to say, but like I routinely say this, we care much more about our clients than we do about their money. The thing is, if we are deeply vested in the families we serve, we'll be deeply vested in helping them achieve the things that are important to them. And that's all that money is. Money is a tool to help you do what's important to you in life. And we want to, one, help you articulate what that is. And then two, help you align your resources in the most efficient and effective way for that. That's what we do.
So you put all of your chips on Bitcoin personally for your family. Do you recommend that for your clients?
So we did personally. I'm an open book with our clients on what we did. We do have a large amount of clients who are invested in that capacity. So a significant amount of our clients own the majority of their liquid net worth in Bitcoin, and all of our clients also own businesses. So maybe half their total net worth is in their business, the other half is in Bitcoin. Now, that is certainly not copy and paste for our clients. Right now, our lowest client exposure historically has been about 10% of their total investment assets to Bitcoin. And then it ranges anywhere from like 10% up to 100%.
So are people seeking you out because of your Bitcoin focus?
We have two types of clients that come to us. One of them come to us because maybe they hear me on a Bitcoin podcast or see me speak at a Bitcoin conference or whatever. They find me because of Bitcoin, and they're dissatisfied with their existing relationship with their financial planner, who always considers them wild and will not even consider their outside Bitcoin holdings. Maybe you have money at a traditional wealth manager and you have 30% of your assets are in Bitcoin. And he says, hey, one, you should get rid of that. But since you're not going to get rid of it, I don't know how to consider it. So we're just going to pretend it doesn't exist. And I don't think that's an adequate response. You're ignoring how the remaining 70% of your portfolio should be allocated in context of the total portfolio. Two, they probably are not considering things like estate planning around Bitcoin, custodying Bitcoin properly, those sorts of things. The tax side of owning Bitcoin. So Bitcoin right now is not subject to wash sale rules for tax loss harvesting, and they're probably not going to be able to speak to those. So we have clients who come to us because they are Bitcoin maximalist and they want us to partner in that capacity. Meanwhile, we have a second set of clients who are normal people. They found us because they were looking for help with retirement planning or just general financial planning. And we don't, it's not like I'm ashamed of Bitcoin, but we don't talk about Bitcoin on our website. There's not a giant orange sign in the background of our website. Largely, that's due to most people. Jim, I know your family's different, but most families, let's say, listener, your parents or grandparents, or you were before you understood Bitcoin, were looking for a financial planner, and your parents were looking for a financial planner, and they logged in. They said, "I need to find a new guy," and it had talk about Bitcoin there. They would probably not even reach out to that person and can assume they're a little bit nuts. So I don't want that to be a stumbling block from them engaging with us. So we have a second set of clients who are normal people looking for normal retirement planning help, and we introduce them to Bitcoin. Now, we generally will do that after they've become clients. We have just demonstrated value through other areas of financial planning, through tax planning and investments and estate. And then finally, we bring up Bitcoin. But we do that once we've demonstrated value and that we are not, just nuts.
So we're recording in January of 2026. Would you say that as far as financial planners go, Bitcoin is still in the nuts category?
Yes. Yeah, I've taken a lot of flack over the years. It's a lot easier than it used to be, I'd say, especially from the Bitcoiner side of things have become much more accepting towards financial planners. The financial planners have also moved in a little bit. However, like 2020 and 2021 was really hard. Even like 2022, Bitcoiners, one of their mantras like, "I don't need a financial plan. Bitcoin is my financial plan," which is silly. That's like if we say that Bitcoin is money, that's like saying the dollar is my financial plan. Like you're not saying anything. So I was taking heat from the Bitcoiner side of things. And then also like traditional finance was, obviously disregarding Bitcoin substantially. So I was taking heat from that side. Now, a lot of Bitcoiners over the last several years have come to terms that, hey, there is actually estate and tax and all these other side of things that I should consider with Bitcoin. And then I have started to see a little bit more adoption amongst financial planners. I do see some overhype at times from Bitcoiners saying like, "Oh, here comes the wave," because whatever, Fidelity or Vanguard or whoever now allows for the buying and selling of Bitcoin on their platform. So every financial planner is now open to Bitcoin and excited about it. I don't see that right now. I do think there will be waves of adoption. The type of firm that we run, it's a independent registered investment advisory firm. So yes, we have a fiduciary standard to our clients, and we have to answer to our clients and also like, regulatory boards. But besides that, I don't sell products for a company. So some independent financial planning firms like mine, if they start understanding Bitcoin, they will adopt early. However, a lot of people that I'm surrounded by in this type of firm have a very hard stance against it. And it's pretty ironic because most of the people who run fee-only independent financial planning firms like mine, I respect highly in this industry. I respect them way more than I would someone who's selling products or working for just like a broker dealer or a large retail type shop. They're usually really good at their job for financial planning topics, and they work with money daily. But the problem I've recognized is these people, they're really good at helping people manage money in all facets, but they've never stopped to ask what money is or what is money. And until you really sit and chew on that question, what is money? Bitcoin will always be an answer to a non-issue. So it's trying to it's like asking a fish, like, what is water? And the fish is going to sit there. It's like, that's silly. I live in water. Why would I even ask that? But that fish doesn't even recognize that he actually lives at the very edge of the ocean where a waste dump plant or like a waste plant dumps all their sludge into the water. Yeah, they sort of live in water, but it's fake water. It's phony, polluted water that they're living in. And until they ask, like, what is water and what should it actually be, they'll never know that they should go swim and get to a healthier place.
I have to admit, I was one of those Bitcoiners that probably threw the baby out with the bathwater. Bitcoin was my financial plan. I guess I didn't even realize there were financial planners that were fee only until I met you. And so I was just kind of like, why would I? Yeah, what are they going to manage? They're going to want me to put all my money into the S&P 500 or something so they can collect a percentage. Is fee only normal, or are you like a minority?
That's becoming more normalized. So fee only, and I mean, we can get to the semantics of all this in financial planning world, and it gets sort of goofy. So there's fee only, which fee only means that you don't receive commissions for selling products. And then instead you're paid either like a flat fee or an asset under management fee. That is becoming more popular because product sales is sort of on the way out as people realize like, wow, that guy's really incentivized to sell me that mutual fund that just has high fees. And then maybe after 3 years and he collects all of his commission for that, then he's going to churn me over and move me into a percentage bucket, but only until he's received his commissions for these other things. So you're seeing a lot of abuse there. And, things like podcasts and YouTube have made information of these things abundant. So people are starting to realize, like, wait a second, there's a lot of abuse. There's not gatekeepers to go and buy a mutual fund like there was in 1997. And so now I routinely have people ask me, are you a fiduciary? Are you a fee only? So hopefully that starts catching on more. Just because you are fee only obviously doesn't mean that you do everything perfectly. There still can be lots of forms of abuse. And there are great people out there who are captured by firms that aren't fee only. But I think it's trending the direction of going that way. Yeah.
Okay. Let's switch gears for a second here. I want to talk about stewardship, retirement, inheritance, and generational wealth in light of Bitcoin and the Bible. What are your views?
Do you want to go directions specifically or start off broad?
We can take those one at a time. I mean, inheritance and generational wealth are kind of one topic. Stewardship's more for people that are in the thick of it. Retirement is obviously kind of, I've got a mixed view on whether or not retirement is even biblical. So I'm just curious to see what your take is on those.
All right. So keep me on. If I could take notes, that'd be good. But let's keep me on track here. So we'll start off with generational inheritance, that type of thing. So is it Proverbs 13 that talks about leaving inheritance to your children and children's children, but then the evil, like even what the evil have, it will go to the righteous. Now, I don't believe that that's not prescriptive. Not saying, hey, to be righteous, you have to leave an inheritance. That's goofy. And that's not, nor is it promising that, hey, everyone who is righteous by the blood of Jesus will have enough money to leave us the next generation. So we're not going to pretend that's the case. However, I think it can be good or is good to leave an inheritance to your children. Now, with that said, that inheritance, way more important than money, is to leave a generational legacy for your kids. First and foremost is that they also follow the Lord. That is paramount. I pray for that for our kids daily, that they would walk in the Lord. And then also, their character, things like that. Way less important than, receiving Christ, but still really important. I would say more important than money. But with that said, I don't think that even if we say this is primarily speaking to an inheritance of salvation, I don't think that just completely dismisses the value of being able to leave your kids and your grandkids a monetary or financial inheritance as well. I think we have seen that, manipulated in a sense with culture nowadays. It's like, oh, it's nepotism and that's bad that you're going to leave your kids something. It's like, dude, I want to build something for my kids. I hope they're better off. Like that is something you should want for your kids, is to allow them to flourish and do well. Ideally, you do that in a way that's not allowing them to abuse. If they have bad character, now they're going to go out and abuse that. But if you have trained up children in the Lord in the way that they should go, and you have given them financial responsibility, awesome. I hope they steward that, continue to steward that well generationally. So I don't think the primary inheritance I want for my kids, I'm not saying the primary inheritance that I want for my kids is the Lord and then their character. And then, yes, I would love to leave the financial inheritance as well. But I have witnessed this personally. It's as if leaving your kids financial inheritance is actually wrong. And that's the foundational issues with America nowadays, is you have nepotism and people who receive a silver spoon. Okay. That was a lot. Sorry.
I think what's interesting is in the modern world, inheritance usually takes the form of just a pile of cash or assets that can be easily liquidated. I think in the ancient world, people's wealth was held in their land and their farm and their animals. And of course, you would leave an inheritance to your children because they were going to carry on operating the family business, which was the farm essentially. So, how do you kind of view the modern version of it, where it's kind of a pile of liquid cash kind of equivalent versus a family business?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Kendra, my wife, she and I, we started watching Spencer's Mountain last night. I think it's based on a true story about a family who generationally have lived in the mountains on this ranch and stuff. And yeah, like this mountain in their ranch was passed down generationally, and you'd expect that to go to the next set of kids. And that's great. You know, to pretend that they don't receive that inheritance would assume that either the government claws it back upon death because you have 100% inheritance tax, or that the legacy generation had some sort of like a reverse mortgage or something on their ranch. So when they die, it's called back to the bank, and then the next generation starts at zero. That's not how it worked. Yeah, the next generation will receive the land, the animals, the tools to carry on the trade of the family. So how does that translate to, and I'm thinking of this in real terms, how does that translate to liquid cash? Well, yeah, that would mean that the next generation has the ability to continue to produce, bring value, and not necessarily, again, I'm not saying that flourishing is bad by any means, but it allows them to continue to produce and provide value to others and provide value to their family. So, and I think that's reasonable.
It seems like, though, there's some sort of moral hazard there when it's just a pile of cash versus something that has to be operated in a specific place, and it's like rooted into a community, and there's like a reputation there, and kind of people would shame you if you just liquidated the property because it's like part of the community. Like I you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, you see that regularly now, as Bill Gates scoops up all the farmland, and then you have this generation of farmers dying out, and it's like, oh, are you really going to go sell that to Bill Gates? Like, you can't do that. And so you have people who are shaming into, continue this legacy versus giving it up to corporations. So yeah, I could see that. Obviously, if you want to build in similar gatekeeping around having a farm, that's where maybe a trust could come into place. A trust essentially allows you to exercise control from the grave. So if you pass away with $3 million and your kids are all minors and you don't have a trust, and let's say that all the money will go to the kids once they are no longer minors, do you want them to receive $3 million? If not, you should probably have a trust in place, and you could provide whatever bylaws you'd like into that, where it would be more like receiving a farm that they have to work year in, year out to actually receive a payment from that land. Raw land in 1700s was not, it was, again, going back Spencer's Mountain, the movie is based, like, it's this incredible valley. It's in the Teton Valley looking at the Snake River and the Tetons. And they're building this house that looks out straight over to the Teton Valley. It's incredible. I was joking with Kendra last night of like, they're so poor, yet if they could just fast forward 100 years, they would realize, or 60 years, they're building on, like, their house would literally be like a $30 million house. But at that point, you're working the land. You are going to the quarry or whatever. So you receive this land. Let's say you're a farmer. You have to put in work, and then you receive an annuity payment of a crop or a harvest each year from that land that you inherited. And yes, you inherited that, but you must work in order to receive this inheritance on a regular basis. Otherwise, it will be squandered, or you could just sell it off for a fraction of its initial value. So it'd be similar to having a trust in place. Is, hey, if you want to receive your annual payout of XYZ, you must demonstrate these characteristics or meet these quotas or whatever. Then you'll receive the annual harvest of the initial land that we left you. It's a really bad analogy, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. All right, let's switch to the retirement one then. It seems like a lot of financial planners are all about, you just you save up, you put money in the stock market, mutual funds, and by the time you're 60 or 65 or whatever, you retire, you get a gold watch and you sail off into the sunset. What's your view on that type of retirement?
I would say at any age, be it 35, the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. So be it 35 or 60 or 85, I would say it's important to not retire to run from what you're doing, but rather to allow yourself to have more time and freedom to do things that are important outside of your existing 9-to-5 job or your job or business, whatever it is. So retiring at 60 is not necessarily bad per se, but it's to what end? I would view this in a similar to singleness. Paul talks about being single. He's like, I wish that everyone would be single so you have more time to serve the Lord like me, but you can get married. But then right now, I see people out there who are Christians who are like, oh, I'm going to stay single so I can travel more and I don't want to have kids and blah, blah, blah. It's like, Paul said that's okay. And that's actually better. It's like, no, Paul directly said that he wants you to be single specifically so you can have more time to serve the Lord, not so you can go out to eat every night of the week and travel more and, live your best life. That is antithetical to the gospel. That is, you're making it about you, not having more time for ministry. So if you want to retire at 35 or 65 or 85, simply so you can, have all the time to yourself and pamper yourself or whatever, that is not the gospel mandate, and that's not living a biblical life. And again, I'm not pretending that retiring ever is bad, but again, it's to what are you retiring into rather than running from something.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so one thing that we kind of conversations we get into a lot are the skeptical elder at a church where the church either has a Bitcoiner in the congregation that wants to give some Bitcoin, or maybe somebody in the leadership team is wanting the church to start accepting it and maybe even holding it. When we talk to these type of people, we don't necessarily have all the letters after our name like you do. So what would you say as Mr. kind of certified financial planner, TradFi, letters after your name guy? What would you say to that person, that skeptical elder in a church, about Bitcoin? Maybe even with respect to the volatility question, or hey, it's like magic internet money or something like that. What's your initial take? What do you say?
One, I mean, to the volatility point itself, volatility and risk are not synonymous. Now, volatility and risk become more and more correlated as time horizon gets compressed. That's why, Jim, if you need $5 tomorrow, and today you have a $5 bill, it'd be foolish to invest that in anything in hopes of having $5.10 tomorrow. Because if instead of it's $4.90, you can't do what you're supposed to do tomorrow, you're toast. That's foolish. So you're just going to hang on to the cash. Now, if you have $5 today and you need $5 of purchasing power in 30 years, it would be equally as foolish, if not more foolish, to retain that $5 in cash and just put it in your mattress to intend to spend it in that 30 years. Because the purchasing power in 30 years, that $5 will be $2 or $1.50. So we have to look at volatility and risk, try to decouple those and understand, and it's sort of semantics, but not really. It is really important to distinguish. So I would speak to that. Also, again, this goes back to something I said earlier, is without understanding what money is, Bitcoin itself sounds like it's trying to be a solution to a non-existent problem, and it sounds very foolish. So people have to stop and ask, what is money? What is the money that we're used to transacting with and handling? What's the history of it, the flaws of it, and what makes ideal money? What's the characteristics and trait of Bitcoin? And then let come to the conclusion. All right, here's what makes money money. And here's what makes different forms of money better or worse than others. Now, of all the options available and anything we can even think of from this point moving forward, what is the best form of money? And what are the legacy, or what are the things that would allow legacy forms of money to retain their power? And what would allow for Bitcoin to unseat those legacy forms of money? And then also what would allow for another form of Bitcoin or something else to then unseat Bitcoin? And then once you've had that, had that conversation, in my opinion, you'd fall to Bitcoin is the best form of money that has ever been created or discovered. and it's just a matter of time of discovery from a adoption standpoint.
So what if they said, we have other donors that donate stocks and we just liquidate the stock? Why is Bitcoin any different?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I would go to partially going back to the intended use question. Yeah, if they say, hey, Jim, you just gave $20,000 of Bitcoin and they need that next week for new pews. It's like, yeah, maybe you should liquidate that right now, just in case.
But they would say, like, in the case of a stock or something, we're not in the business of investing and picking the winners. So we want to be conservative, and like the most conservative thing to do is to just go to all cash or maybe some T-bills.
Yeah. Again, you have to assess what is risk. So what's the intended use of said money, be it cash, T-bills, stocks, Bitcoin? What's the intended use? And then the defining what is risk. So everything you do is risky in some sense. So as a hypochondriac, so we're afraid of everything. So let's say you're a hypochondriac and you're afraid of leaving your house. So you shut yourself in and you never interact with anybody or go outside. One, you're going to be vitamin D deficient. You'll probably be obese and you'll definitely be socially weird. Like, that's very risky. You're taking that risk of shutting yourself in. Yes, of course, if you left your house, you'd get hit by a car. And that's dangerous too, I guess. But you're taking those risks. And if you're going to not hold Bitcoin and you're only going to go hold cash because everything else is dangerous, you're directly subjecting yourself to inflationary risk and, I don't know, T-bills. I mean, it's becoming more and more apparent that there are risks there that have, maybe showed some fault lines in the past that are starting to become, more apparent through global issues that are bubbling up. So yeah, having them articulate what is the concern when you say we're not in the business of this. Why is that? Is it the risk that you're addressing? Is it we only operate on a day-to-day cash budget, therefore we just need the cash so we can spend from it daily? I would hope that most churches have some sort of emergency fund or even a long-term fund. And if so, then that points back to just general investment management, financial planning, and building out an investment bucket. And then what should constitute that investment bucket itself?
Let's kind of zoom in on the inflation bit there. So Elon just went on the Moonshots podcast a couple days ago, and there's clips all over the internet. He's saying things like, my prediction is there's going to be universal high income and social unrest. But then he goes on to say, in the end, the money printing doesn't really matter because AI is going to be so deflationary that really the only solution is to print money. The government's essentially just going to have to print money and give it to people. Otherwise, it's just going to be riots in the streets. So first of all, do you agree with that? And secondly, if that's true, what place does Bitcoin have in a world like that? Or is fiat even better than Bitcoin because you can print fiat, and so you can essentially, spread the wealth around more easily than with Bitcoin?
Ethically, I agree. And part of me wants to agree in practicality, especially if you follow the thread of like Jeff Booth and how we should be living in a deflationary world. And yeah, with adoption or with technological advancements, it makes sense for most things to get cheaper on an annualized basis. And I hope that would happen. That we have more time to devote to being with family and doing things of value versus just working a 9 to 5 on tasks that should be automated, at this point, or if in 15 years. Now, yes, in practicality, that should happen, but I think there will be some manipulation in there. One, who would benefit? Would corporations actually allow for every individual to benefit from this automation, from AI and robotics? Or would it be concentrated benefit amongst a few, and then the non-few still working in the same capacity for what's remaining?
I think that's more likely, and that's his point. The governments need to print money to spread the wealth around.
Yeah. Well, then that brings in the other problem. And this thought came into mind right when I stumbled on Bitcoin is, all right, if the government can just create money, I would see in not too long, the government's needing to create money on a regular basis in some form of universal basic income. Now, tinfoil hat time, but I think if we have that, that will probably come in tandem with some sort of social score. And, all right, the McAndrew family, you receive, each person in your family gets $500 per month to spend. Now there's caveats to it. You have to spend it within 3 months, and it has to be used in these capacities. Oh, and we didn't tell you that we're going to surveil everything you do. And hey, you gave money to a clinic that helps people who are considering alternative like birth options outside of an abortion. Okay, we don't like that. And also, hey, you ate way too much red meat last month. We don't like that either. And you drove outside of your barriers too much. Therefore, you're using too much fossil fuels. I guess, Jim, you're not. Most people are. So you're using too much fossil fuels. You're eating too much red meat, and you gave to causes that we don't agree with. So do it again next month. You're not going to get your 500. You're going to get 250. You do it again after that. You're not getting your money. I think that if we have this UBI, which I think we will have in the next decade, that it will come largely with some sort of social score, which will be a means of manipulating how you can use your money and if you'll receive any from the government. So at that point, yes, I think Bitcoin would be the means of freeing yourself from the dependence on the government to get handouts.
Okay, but later in the same podcast, he goes on to say that people should not worry about saving for retirement because we're already living through the singularity. Artificial general intelligence, or ASI, super intelligence, is here. It's coming. It's going to be here in a couple of years. So it's really just pointless to care about saving for the future because the magic internet god is upon us and it's just going to hand out free goodies to everybody. What do you say to that?
I mean, that's sort of like people who say like, hey, Jesus is going to come back here soon, so we might as well not save it all. It's like, all right, yeah, I want the Lord to return and, hasten the day, but I also want to be a good steward of what I have and make sure that, if the Lord doesn't return in my lifetime, I still have something there and I'm stewarding that well. So yeah, maybe the government just prints enough money to sustain all of our needs. What would be the implications of the government just creating money for us? Like, who's running these companies that is supporting our life? That's
presumably the AI is.
Yeah, but who's AI? Is this corporate or governmental? And if it's corporate and the government's creating the money for us to spend to these corporate companies, now the corporations are just making more money, and we're just getting money from the governments. But the more money the governments create, the less valuable that money is. So they have to give us more money in this flywheel effect. So yeah, you say, well, Jim, as corporations get more and more efficient, then it's going to take less and less money to do this. But the government's still going to have to give more money for us. It's going to be one directional. So I don't think we're going to get rid of just general economics simply because things can be done more efficiently and the government create money. Like that bypasses every other rule of economics right there.
So do you just fundamentally disagree that artificial superintelligence is here and that it's going to be as transformative as they're saying?
No, not necessarily. I just would hate for anyone to say, yeah, you're right. Things will be so efficient. The government's going to give us so much money. I guess I can go live off welfare from the state.
Well, it'll be like Star Trek where you just walk up to the replicator and say tea Earl Grey hot and it just appears and everybody just kind of has like Federation credits. And yeah, you can't walk up to a replicator and ask it to create a starship for you, but within reason, you can have everything you want,
Yeah, I don't know. If that feels too nanny state of what do you want? It's like, all right, Jim, if you want this, the government can provide it. And again, I would say it's a few things. One, you are beholden to the government, and in my opinion, you will be beholden to the government in order to receive your paychecks if this happens. And then two, yes, you'll receive everything you want as long as what you want is within these bounds. And if you are allowing yourself to only be, eligible to participate in that capacity, I hope that your wants align with what the government will hand to you. And again, if these are private corporations that are being essentially directly funded by US dollars, what's happening there? Then you're creating this massive imbalance and that goes back to social unrest. Because now imagine like the few who are benefiting from government created dollars feeding straight into their programs versus everyone else who's living off these handouts. Yeah, I think you will have riots in the streets. And yeah, you got to give these people bread and circuses, but is that going to last forever? Like eventually it's going to lead to the fall of the Roman Empire. Like I think that's what happened to Rome. I think Rome fell because of two reasons: moral decline and monetary decline. And we could sit here and say like, oh, we fixed the monetary decline because we can infinitely create denarii. Like, I don't think it's going to happen. And then we still have the moral issue as well. And I think that people will be eventually frustrated. Even if you give them tons and tons of bread and circuses, eventually people become frustrated with it.
Okay.
I don't know. Do you agree, disagree? I haven't thought about this too much.
I generally don't think that we're going to get some magic internet god that's going to hand out everything that we ever want. I think that's a lot of hubris there. But I do respect Elon, and he is in the catbird seat on a lot of this stuff, and he knows a lot more things just because of the companies that he operates and the information that he has. And he's a really smart guy. So it's like he is operating on better information, and he has more intelligence than me. So it does give me pause when I hear him say things like that, but he's also not a Christian as far as I know. And so, there's some things in there that are just don't really line up with biblical principles or my view on eschatology. And so I think that he's got some blind spots.
Yeah. And again, this goes back, that sort of ties hand in hand with Jeff Booth and, having a deflationary economy with technologies that advance. And I agree that that's how things should be. Like just in a practical stance, things should be less expensive in general than they used to be. And not just toasters and big screen TVs, but life itself. We're just more efficient. And hopefully it will become so apparent that should be the case because of AI and these robotics that we can't ignore it anymore and the government can no longer manipulate it. But yeah, I don't think it's going to come in the rate at which, it's being propagated right now.
All right. So let's bring it back down to ground. Sentiment right now is really bad. It's like the worst sentiment in Bitcoin really since I've been in Bitcoin. I kind of got into it in 16, 17, and even sort of in the bottom of the FTX scandal and all that kind of stuff. It seems like sentiment is just in the toilet right now. So how do you deal with that? How do you talk to clients about that? What would you say to that nervous elder that you convinced to get his church to buy the top and now Bitcoin's down 40% and they're mad at you? Like, how do you have those conversations?
Yeah, I've observed the same things. And frankly, I feel that same thing. This past year, I traveled a lot more than I ever have, like by myself or speaking at stuff. And was it November? November, I was in Amsterdam speaking at a conference, and it was like week 6 or 7 without my wife and kids. Amsterdam was like 42 degrees and rainy and muggy, and Bitcoin's melting down and strategy's blowing up. I'm sitting there like, man, I miss my family and I just want to go home and hug my wife. And yeah, like it's tough, but then we should expect volatility. I would say it does feel different this time. Like when FTX collapsed, I was sitting there like, yeah, I always knew that was a scam. Like that was pretty obvious. And like one of my favorite quoted articles was back in like, I don't know, whenever Bitcoin hit 16,000 from the big run up, and it dropped to 16 because of the FTX collapse. I was interviewed by somebody. They interviewed a handful of financial planners about their views of Bitcoin, and all these other people were like, oh yeah, I knew we should never touch that stuff and always knew it was a scam. And then my quote was something along the lines of like, yeah, we're telling our clients that we need to buy even more right now and we love this. And that was like right at the bottom. And I love that. And right now, I would say that at that point, it was so simple. It was obvious, this is manipulation. This is not reflective of Bitcoin. Right now does feel different. I think it's because of a lot of things. One, the paradigm shift of this 4-year halving cycle, the expectations breaking of like 2025 was supposed to be a huge up year, and it was massively disappointing. We have the infighting of Bitcoin with core versus knots. But we have to remember that one, adoption is not linear. It's a nascent, essentially a nascent technology just a few years ago that's being adopted. Adoption curves are not linear. We've had infighting similar to this at a much larger rate a decade ago, with block size wars and everything. So this isn't something new. Now, just because it's not something new doesn't mean we can rest on our laurels and pretend that it doesn't exist. Like, we can't say, oh, it's going to work itself out. Things work themselves out because people are working in the background. So we need to come up with solutions for core knots. We need to come up with solutions with making Bitcoin anti-fragile with supercomputing. Like, that's really important. I'm too stupid to know what to do about it, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's just going to magically make itself work. I know a lot of smart people who are working on these things, which is reassuring. The price volatility, I love to come back to other technologies that we've seen adoption and had large times of disappointment. I think the internet's probably the most visceral one. So, 90s, the internet was looking huge. And there are people who were massively wrong. Was it Paul Krugman in 1998 or so? 97, 99, somewhere in there, Paul Krugman said that the internet by, this is what he say, like by 2001 or something like that, the internet will prove to have no larger impact on the economy than the typewriter did. Like, he was wrong. And that guy won a Nobel Prize. He must be smart. And for a brief period there, he looked right. When the dot-com bubble burst, he looked like he was going to be right. So yeah, there's times right now it's like, hey, Bitcoin's going to change the world. And then it doesn't do what we hoped it would for a temporary time. It's like, oh man, all the haters are right. I guess Peter, what's his name? The gold guy. Anyways.
Peter Schiff.
Yeah, Peter Schiff. I guess Peter Schiff's right. Gold is the best form of money. But we're looking at this at in my opinion, way too short of a time horizon to make these calls.
All right, well, let's talk about metals for a second. You and Preston were, the last time you were on his podcast and this last summer, you were talking about all these M2 money supply charts where they offset Bitcoin by however many weeks or months or whatever. And it's like perfect correlation. And lo and behold, the metals rip. So they're following the correlation. And Bitcoin's just dead on arrival since then. Are you surprised by that? Are you feeling annoyed that metals are ripping and Bitcoin is not? What does that tell you?
Well, fortunately, we bought gold in some of our portfolios quite a while ago, like way before gold ripped. And ironically, I told our clients who own these, like, hey, we're going to own some gold. It's probably going to be pretty disappointing and underperform most things, but we're going to own it just in case. And obviously,
just in case what?
Just in case we have global issues. It
like
was
the internet goes down and we're living like the Stone Age again.
No, it was really against like global distrust and a flee to hard assets. And like, obviously, like the BRICS nations, over the last couple years, we've had BRICS nations starting to show signs of distrust in the dollar and the petrodollar systems. It's like, all right, what are they going to revert to? Is it going to be, the yuan? Is it going to be gold? Is it going to be Bitcoin? So it's, I viewed Bitcoin or gold as insurance. Every asset we own is insurance against something. The dollar's insurance against short-term volatility. Bitcoin is insurance against money corrosion. Gold's insurance against geopolitical risks, and Bitcoin not fulfilling the stepping in and taking the reins there. So everything's insurance against one another. So we own gold, and unfortunately, I told her, I'm like, hey, this is probably going to be disappointing and boring, and unfortunately, it's done really well. And I say it's unfortunate because I'm in a predicament. It's not supposed, in my opinion, it's not supposed to be doing well in 2025. Especially at a time that like we have these lots of different metals that are doing well. We have gold ripping. We have other metals that are supposed to do well when the markets are doing great. Then we have gold that's supposed to be doing well as a safe haven. Like it's odd. So yeah, I'm sitting here.
Do you think this is a canary in the coal mine of the system is on the brink?
So that's where we're at right now. And again, like this is at this moment, this is investment advice. And I'm just saying like, this is where my thoughts are. Like this could be so many different ways. Like just, I ponder this. I haven't stopped thinking for months. I go to bed every night thinking about this. And I've worked in finance for a little over a decade now, I guess. And I've studied financial markets for going back a few millennia. I really like this stuff. And right now, honestly, I'm sitting here. It's a frustrating time because we've had to hit this headway, in my opinion, of massive manipulation where everything's dictated by a few variables. It's like, all right, well, what happened? What's the Fed going to do? What's Trump going to tweet? What's going to happen with AI? What's going to happen with these couple companies? And that will dictate everything else. So
at least on our side, right? And then it's like on the BRICS side, it's like how much money are they going to print and pump gold?
Yeah. So I mean, it's frustrating. Heck, we could sit here. I was talking about this the other day with a buddy of mine. Is gold and these other forms of metal, are they doing well because of monetary purposes, or are they doing well because of use case purposes? It's like, oh well, people are going there because they're fleeing to a store of value. Oh, and also it's heavily used in these computers. And in my opinion, that brings up another reason that Bitcoin is a superior form of money. You don't get this outside noise of, oh, well, Bitcoin's also valuable. I guess, people are really into, JPEGs on the blockchain. It's like, oh, well, Bitcoin is money, but it's also a cool storage, device. All right. No, it's supposed to be money. So yeah, you're having a lot of noise. I would say there's even noise within precious metals. That's like, why is this doing well? I think it's largely doing well because of this a lack of trust globally. So people are sort of taking their own and, trying to cover their own backs, which I'm fine with that. I would expect especially if we see the petrodollar sort of start melting down, like that is going to be painful. And, painful.
Well, it appears that they're going to prop up the petrodollar with Venezuela at this point.
Yeah, things change. Super fun. It's like I sat in a big old meeting a few months back that was talking about the funded levels of the Social Security endowment right now. And it was funny. It was this big, super nerdy talk. It was online, and all these people I go to these things pretty regularly. No one ever talks in the chat room. And I put in there, I forgot what I said, something about how Social Security is like a forced Ponzi scheme. And it was such a lively chat in that room. And essentially, like, yeah, if we believe that Social Security is a forced Ponzi scheme, that's only going to get worse. Like, do we let it melt down? Like, that would be outrageously painful. What are the options? Let it melt down or just keep going? And unfortunately, that's where a lot of things are. It's like, all right, let's say that the stock market, just for fun, I believe this is the case, but let's say the stock market is overvalued by 35 to 45%. Will the government just allow it to continue to be irrationally overvalued, or do we let it melt down? Like,
or the housing market. I mean, they're just going to have to print.
Yeah, the housing market, stock market, the bond market, like. There's pain everywhere. But the problem is we have pain there, but you also have pain in like carried balances on credit cards are through the roof, defaults on loans, auto loans. Like, it's like, oh, Jim, people are just fine.
It's the money everywhere, but not a dollar to spend, right?
Seriously. Then it's like, oh, well, Jim, it's not that bad. All these, Gen Z and millennials are complaining they can't afford anything, but all the bars and restaurants are always busy. It's like, well, it's because I think that's sort of nihilistic. It's like, well, I can't afford to buy a house. I'm never going to retire and I can't have anything of my own. I might as well go out and get a milkshake and a burger a few times a week. And it's like, oh, well, they're doing just fine. They're going out to eat way more than my family did. It's like, yeah, but they're doing that because they can't do anything else. It's an escape.
I mean, I'm living through it myself. I'm looking at buying the place we're currently renting, and my payment's basically almost going to double. And the only reason I really feel like I can do it is because I'm a Bitcoiner. Nobody else can. So it's not good. Do you buy this narrative that it wasn't ever the 4-year cycle? It was always the business cycle?
I don't know. I don't know. I do know a few things. One, I think I'm smart enough to recognize and say that I don't know. And I'm glad I have that going for me. I've always known I'm not that smart. So I can say I don't know.
I feel like everybody on Twitter everybody always knows everything. They always have some chart with a bunch of lines on it that says it all. Even like this latest gamma squeeze stuff. And it was all the options were supposed to like unwind at the end of December. And now it's like, oh no. They rolled them over. So now it's going to be the end of January. And I'm just like, who knows anything?
Yeah. What's the is it Fooled by Randomness? Is that what I'm thinking of? I think it was a Taleb book that talks about people wanting to ascribe some sort of reason behind everything so they feel secure in what's going on. Like, oh, I know why this happened. And that might provide you security. And like, I don't like that, because then I'm just proven wrong over and over again. I'd rather say, I'm not sure. That way, at least I'm not wrong. And I don't want to be naive, but also I think it's also naive to pretend that you have the answers and then not learn from the fact that, dude, you're wrong the last 40 times. Like, stop pretending like you know what's going on right now and say, I'm not sure. Here's what we're guessing. And here's the implications of the possibilities. Here's the probability of each possibility. And then the weighted impact of those possibilities. Here's how I should position myself. And here's the attitude I should have, and the way I should align my resources and my attitude towards these things based off of the weighted probabilities. Here's what's looking like. So yeah, like the 4-year cycle, I was a big believer in the 4-year cycle, I'd say. And why did we not blow off the roof? Like when people ask me, the last couple of years, Jim, where do you think Bitcoin's going to go in 2025? I never said 300,000, whatever. I was always the bear amongst friends. I was the bull amongst non-Bitcoiners and the bear amongst Bitcoiners. So I didn't get burned too bad. I don't know what's going to happen.
I just feel like, as bad as sentiment is, the underlying thesis is still the same. And this is what we were talking about before. They are going to have to print, right? It's Larry Lepard's book. And if they're going to print, assets have to inflate. There's really no way around it. It's just a question of when and sort of how much of that liquidity flows into which assets.
So a few things. One, thematically what's happening, like just go back to first principles. Like, all right, is the dollar healthy? Is gold a great form of actual money? Okay. Or should we have some sort of gold-backed blockchain money? Well, how do we verify the gold that's backing that? Well, the gold will back the dollar. How do we verify that? Okay, that doesn't work. How do we have fiat currencies? There's continuing manipulation there. Okay, what's another solution? Bitcoin. My thesis has not changed. Bitcoin is still the best form of money when we assess all the options available, plus we assess what is impossible of being created. Now, again, I'm not smart enough to think of every opportunity, but when I think through in my limited mind, Bitcoin's the best way to go. So I'm not broken there. I think Bitcoin still is winning. Now, it's inevitable. The inevitability of money printing and then Bitcoin winning out, that's interesting. When I'm looking at, and I was going to go to this earlier, is like, where are we in my frustration with everything? It's like, all right, this is my shower and laying down trying to fall asleep at night thing for the last 5 months now, is what are the possibilities with the direction of the market and the economy? One, I feel like we have this massive disconnect between the markets and the economy right now. Like, they're not aligned. So are we going to have a mean reversion? And is the mean reversion the market to the economy or the economy to the market? And if it's the economy, mean like
the economy is in a recession while the market is at all-time highs?
Yeah. And if we have economy come to meet the market, then that theoretically would add rocket fuel, because now there's reason and it goes up further. Or we have a reversion from the market to the economy, and then we would be in a recession. Or they meet in the middle. And then we could say, like, all right, well, Trump comes out, like a week or two ago, he came out and said he's going to do things that's going to be life-changing for the housing market and whatever he's going to unveil there. It's like, okay, what can he do? What types of money, intervention can the government have on money in the economy? And then let's say they do print money. Like, okay, if the government does they push rates down substantially and they start printing money like crazy, what are the possibilities and the implications of that action? All right, does Bitcoin rip? Do risk on assets rip? Does inflation rip? Whatever. And it's like, all right, it could be all these things, or we could have a 1970s reaction. 1970s, we left the gold standard. Inflation was through the roof. Equities over a decade were down double digits. The US dollar in nominal terms was up and real returns was down because inflation was so high. Gold was up massively. Could we have something like that? And if we have something like that, one, How does Bitcoin respond? Does Bitcoin respond like a risk on asset and it's down double digits over a decade? Or does it respond like gold and it's up massively? Going back to gold, this is sort of the funny thing with gold. Like obviously gold's like at an all-time high right now. Is gold just starting that run up because it's the canary in the coal mine of like, this is breaking, it's broken and breaking and it's starting to get bid up because of that? Or has it already been bid up and now it's time to get out? Because we've seen the run up. It's like, all right, what situation are we in 1970s or are we in the printer's coming on and this is unprecedented territory that you better hold on your seatbelts and whatever. Like, I'm not sure. I'm not gonna pretend I know, but I mean,
it seems like one way or another, owning assets is better than not owning assets.
Yeah, I would. Again, like I mean, if we were just sitting here
Berkshire
talking
Hathaway is like sitting on $300 billion of cash. It seems like they've missed out on like the biggest bull run in the last 2 years, right? They started going to cash 2 years ago or something.
Yeah, I mean, we could sit here and talk for the next few hours about the opportunity cost of going into cash for a prolonged period of time when the market goes up by X, even if the market drops by Y, and they timed the bottom perfectly. Did they break even? Did they still miss out, or did they achieve alpha because of that? And of course, you have to consider, like, especially I have to consider people's moods during that. Like loss aversion versus joy in making money, and I made money but I lost it all, versus I missed it on the gains, but all my friends in the news had the gains, but then I missed the drawdown. It's like, all right, there's so much emotion in this. It's wild. So you have that, and then you have I don't know, just so many what ifs and what could happen here. Like we could talk for hours about all these things.
Do you feel like how much you're a Bitcoin maximalist determines how emotional you are about some of this stuff?
I think there are a lot of goobers in Bitcoin, for sure. Like it's funny. Amongst most people, like in day-to-day life, I'm a super Bitcoin maxi. But then I go to Bitcoin conferences and it's like, dude, I just want to go sit in a hotel room and sit by the pool and not talk to other people because am I part of a cult?
My dad's like, you guys are a bunch of psychopaths, man.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm part of a cult. I didn't even know it. Yeah, but so there are some goobers out there for sure. But I would say on average, Bitcoiners versus non-Bitcoiners have a much deeper understanding of money and markets and economies versus just like normal people. Now, that can be your interpretations of moves and states can certainly be influenced by your views of Bitcoin. And that is something I have to check myself in regularly am I falling for echo chamber? It's inevitable that Bitcoin's going to win. It's going to happen tomorrow because I'm listening to Bitcoiners, or am I a Bitcoiner because I see these other things, or do I see all these other things because I like Bitcoin and therefore it has to win? I have to, what's influencing that? What lens am I viewing this through?
I mean, I'm sort of questioning my own fear receptors in my brain at this point. I admittedly got into the treasury company bandwagon. I have some MicroStrategy, some MetaPlanet, and it's been absolutely taken to the woodshed over the last 6 months. But as a Bitcoiner, I just like don't feel anything. And so I'm wondering, should I feel a little more of something? Like, should I have sold those positions?
It's funny, like personally, I like never look at my own money. And that's for a few reasons. One, it's partially emotional. If my money's up a whole bunch, I'm more prone to give into greed. And if it's down a lot, more prone to give into fear. So I just never look. Of course, I know what my money's doing based off of looking at Bitcoin in the markets. Like I have a pretty decent idea, but I just don't look. But I don't have the inability just to turn it off and say, oh, I'm fine. I'm insulated against emotion. I carry the baggage of well over 100 other families, like hundreds of people. I have their baggage, and it's insanely weighty. Like I know, like I probably have been a bummer for this conversation, but like I have people reaching out regularly, like, hey, what's going to happen because of Venezuela? Or what's going to happen because of these tariffs? Like the last 9-10 months has been a lot. Like, oh, Jim, the tariffs, now what? And I'm the type of guy, like, I don't want a lot of financial advisors or money managers out there send clients emails on a weekly or monthly basis, like, here's the market update. And as if like they're trying to be the substitute for Fox Money. I don't want my clients to watch Fox Money because that's garbage. And a lot of the time it's just like, that's not even helpful. It's just a dopamine hit to feel like you understand what's happening. Going back to like this, your need to have an answer to all things. Like, I don't want to do that to my clients. So like, I very rarely will communicate to my clients, like, here's what's happening with tariffs and here's what's happening and the market's doing this and that. Cause I don't want my clients to live at this place. Like, they hired us so you don't have to think about it. And I don't want them to be emotional about it. Now, with that said, there are times it is emotional in my job. There's a lot of change with taxes this last year. So like staying on top of like, okay, what's the implications of all these tax changes? And then Bitcoin is behaving all wild. And, last year we had the tariffs, all these things. It was a lot to process. And for me, yeah, I'm like you. Like, I don't feel it. I feel nothing. But then there's this other part of me.
You're empathetic, right?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So,
I live in this dualistic world. I'm fine, but I carry this weightiness of like lots of other people.
Is it asymmetric? Like, when the sentiment is bad, it's like way worse for you, but when the sentiment's good, it's not like it's that much better.
Yeah. I mean,
that's kind of unfortunate, right? Because it's like, it's either okay or it's just like really bad and you're carrying all this weight. It's not like you're rewarded at some point with some sort of euphoria whenever the market's doing some blow off top, because it's like, how much joy can you really have, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend that I don't have any clients who reach out and be like, hey, we appreciate you. I get that, and it's awesome. But I don't even have clients put this on me. I just feel it myself because I think about this way more than most people. Like, I don't know the last time I did not think about taxes or the economy or Bitcoin or something like that. Like, my brain doesn't stop. And that is way heavier during times of volatility and unknowns than it is during times of like, coasting autopilot.
How do you ever turn that off? Like, when you're with the family or at church, or like, is it ever possible to really turn it off?
The times that it's off the best, I would say, well, there's a few times. Like, one, I have to, like, when I'm spending time with Kendra, like, I try to be fully present with what I'm doing. So if I'm not fully present in something and I'm just coasting, then yeah, I can't turn it off. So I have to be engulfed in something else. So if it's being with my wife or being with the kids, now I have to make sure that I'm not allowing this other thing to creep in. Otherwise, I will be thinking about it, be it good or bad. Like, I'll be thinking through some new tax rule that we should implement with all of our clients because it will be great. And that's not fair to my family. Or it's like, oh, Bitcoin's melting down right now, so now I'm gonna be bad or whatever. Like, so I have to turn that off and focus. And really the time that's best is like when I'm spending time with the Lord's, like reading my Bible or worshiping. Like, the other night, Kendra was playing the keyboard and worshiping and singing. And I have the world's worst voice, but I'm doing dishes and I have my headphones and I'm just worshiping. And I'm like, it was so good. And I don't use that as like an escape mechanism of like, I'm going to turn off reality and just be emotional to God. It's like, no, like I want to worship God. And like, that's the best thing ever. Like, I don't know. It's what I was reminded of this a few months ago. It was actually when I was in Amsterdam and I was lonely and cold and missed my family and Bitcoin's dropping and everyone's freaking out. And I'm surrounded by a cult of Bitcoiners. I came to the conclusion that, man, I'm so glad that this is not about me. And I'm so glad that I am not or never could be the hero of this. Like, it's all about God and he could be the hero. And carnality would want to say, no, I want to be the hero and I want this to be about me. But in reality, like, truly, the weightiness of me having to be the hero for things, I couldn't handle it. And man, what a burden that would be. So I'm so glad that's not about me. So when I when I go to this place of like worshiping God because he's good and he's the hero and he is worthy of all things, like, that's the best time. Because I'm reminding myself, like, hey, this is the day the Lord has made. Rejoice and be glad in it. Like, I love these things that are a reminder. Like, hey, bless the Lord, O my soul. Forget not his benefits. It's this reminder, like, this is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. That's a declaration. Like I, as an act of my will, I'm going to rejoice and be glad in it because the Lord has made this day. Bless the Lord. Like he is good. So it's just a reminder. It's like, all right, no matter what's going on, he's good. And I'm so glad I don't have to carry this burden. That's the best thing ever.
I think
I can't imagine living a life where I have to be the hero of it all. Like I would break.
I think a lot of Bitcoiners probably feel that way, right? And that's what's so exciting about the idea of sharing the gospel with Bitcoiners is it's like as a parent, when I look at non-Christian parents, I'm like, how do they parent without knowing the Lord? Like, I can't imagine being a parent without knowing the Lord. And it's kind of the same thing. Like, I can't really imagine interacting with Bitcoin at this point in the story without knowing the Lord and being able to just lay it all at his feet and not have to be like the giga brain smartest guy in the room. I figured it all out before everybody. And, you know, if I don't write code, quantum's going to kill it all. And it's just kind of like, you know, and it's the same thing with AI. It's like I don't know how secular humanists can stare down the gauntlet of inventing ASI and go to sleep at night. You know, I'm just like, first of all, I don't think it's going to happen, but even if it is technically possible, the idea that the Lord is up there watching over us all, he's sovereign, and, you know, if it's going to happen, he's either going to smote it or he's going to use it for his purposes. We meant it for evil and he meant it for good. I don't know how people sleep at night if they aren't able to do that. So I'm with you on that one. It must be hard though. I mean, it's hard enough to lay your own anxieties at the Lord's feet, much less 100 different clients' anxieties.
Yeah. I mean, I love my job like 95% of the time, and it's really fun. Like, I enjoy when new tax stuff comes out because it's like I nerd out for a few days reading all the new tax law, and it's awesome. It's like, all right, here's all the areas that we can like demonstrate value. It's really cool, and that's really fun. But yeah, there's other times it's a lot. I still love what I do. Like, I mean, like this goes back to the retirement question. Yeah, I could have retired if I wanted to already. I'm 35. But what would I do if I was retired right now? Like, I don't want to run from this. Like, I don't even want to stop doing this. But I don't know, like I want to make sure that whatever I'm doing is spending time. Like I personally, I love what I do. The opportunity to,
you clearly just want to help people, right? And so it's like, if you retired, you're still going to be wanting to help people. So it's like, why would you do it in this context versus that context?
Yeah. And we are invited into a very honored and trusted position in our clients' lives that I don't take lightly. Like the amount of conversations that I've had over the years of, hey, Jim, we just found out that we're pregnant. We haven't told anyone yet, but we figured you should know. Or, hey, we just found out we miscarried. Or, hey, my husband just passed away. Or, hey, here's things that we're considering, these dreams we have. We haven't shared this with many people. Like, can you speak to this? Like, that's an incredibly honored position. And I love that. And actually, like, helping people navigate these decisions that are intimately personal to them. And that comes back to, like, I care about our clients a ton. And like, what a place that I have and we as a company have to be able to step in and steward those relationships well. And when appropriate, like to preach the gospel directly. And yeah, like that's most like there's very few people in someone's life that have the opportunity to speak into someone's life that we have. And I never want to take that for granted.
I think that's a perfect place to wrap it up. I assume you're taking new clients on. How can people find you?
Yeah. We bring on new clients routinely. Our website is intentionallivingfp as in financialplanning.com. On there, if you would like, there's a link for our calendar for 15 minutes. If you want to talk about working together, that's awesome. Or if you just have like a one-off question of, hey, like, what should I do about this? And it's one or two questions. More than happy to spend a few minutes with you and hashing that out if you'd like. So want to help in any way we can.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for coming on, Jim.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim.